As seen through the eyes of people from distant lands, Americans live an expensive lifestyle. Some believe that if everyone in America lives in a big house, drives a new car, and has no worries. However, that is not the case at all. Americans are fortunate to have the opportunity to achieve these things, if they choose to. For many Americans, it is not their goal to live in a grand house or drive an expensive car. For many Americans, a moderate lifestyle, where they are surrounded by the people they love, is much more important than living the high life. Every American has his or her own idea of the American dream. Through different topics, this podcast explores what the American dream is and what people do and endure to achieve this lifestyle.
What does the American dream mean to me? Mostly it means not having to worry about if I'm going to have to choose between paying the rent or buying groceries. I suppose my ideas of the American dream has changed since I had children. When it's just you, you can wear the same thing 3 days in a row. Or not worry about if your car is running just right. You can let things go a bit more. When you have kids, you worry what other people will think about them, based on what they see of you. I bounced a check I'd written to my daughter's school a few months ago. It was only for $60. I was so embarrassed somewhat for myself, but mostly because I knew no one was saying Kristen bounced a check for $60. They were saying Amelia's mom bounced a check for $60.
President Barack Obama.
In the period after World War II, a growing middle class was the engine of our prosperity. Whether you owned a company, or swept its floors, or worked anywhere in between, this country offered you a basic bargain, a sense that your hard work would be rewarded. With fair wages and decent benefits, the chance to buy a home, to save for retirement, and most of all, a chance to hand down a better life to your children.
Sounds like the American dream. We've all heard it. We've all referred to it. We all strive to achieve it. But what is it? How can one chase something if one doesn't know what it is that one is chasing? For most Americans, the American dream is a dream of wealth, of upward mobility, of doing better than the generation before them. Assuming that is what the American dream is, what does that mean in today's climate of economic security, where more than 47 million people, including 23.5 million children, live in low-income working families, and 1 in 3 working families struggle to meet their basic needs?
What happened was that the link between the higher productivity and people's wages and salaries was broken. It used to be that, as companies did better, as profits went higher, workers also got a better deal. And that started to change. So the income of the top 1% nearly quadrupled from 1979 to 2007. But typically families' incomes barely budged.
So, for the 99%, has the American dream been deferred?
What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode?
According to Columbia University Library's archival collection, the term American Dream was coined by James Truslow Adams in his The Epic of America, published in 1933. Adams attempted to address the historic development and philosophical vision of America. It was in this book that Adams coined the term the American Dream, which he defined as
that dream of a land in which life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to ability or achievement. It is a difficult dream for the European upper classes to interpret adequately, and too many of ourselves have grown weary and mistrustful of it. It is not a dream of motor cars and high wages merely, but a dream of social order in which man and each woman shall be able to attain to the fullest stature of which they are innately capable, and be recognized by others for what they are, regardless of the fortuitous circumstances of birth or position.
So, according to Adams, the American dream is not merely about wealth. It's about equality and opportunity and a society that values making life richer and fuller for everyone. Through that equality, individuals may attain wealth and upward mobility, but those are not the primary goals of the American dream. Those things are secondary gains, according to Adams.
There are a lot of folks who are still struggling out there. Too many people in poverty. Here in America, we've never guaranteed success. That's not what we do. More than some other countries, we expect people to be self-reliant. nobody is going to do something for you. We've tolerated a little more inequality for the sake of a more dynamic, more adaptable economy. And that's all for the good. But that idea has always been combined with a commitment to equality, of opportunity to upward mobility. The idea that no matter how poor you started, if you're willing to work hard and discipline yourself and defer gratification, you can make it too. That's the American idea.
I work. My husband works. It's not for lack of trying that we don't own a house or drive a really nice car. We don't take vacations or go out to movies. We just don't have enough money, and there's not enough time in the day for either of us to get a second job. At the end of the month, between rent, food, gas, car payments, student loan payments, bank levies for an unpaid credit card, there's nothing left. I feel like the American dream is just that, a dream. Problem is, most of us are insomniacs.
The cost of an education in America. A poor job market leads to a need to stand out among others. Many young adults who decide pursuing a trade is not for them choose to take a financial risk and go for higher education. America is well known for the high cost for post-secondary education, but is the financial burden of a degree worth it? From such an early age, we are pressured by teachers, parents, and society to go on and complete a college degree. There is a whole market just for prepping and getting into college, from SAT test prep books to college prep high schools that can cost more than $3,000 a year per student. Because such an emphasis is put on obtaining a college degree, we correlate a degree with success and the American dream. However, many Americans are indentured to their loans after graduation, which makes just getting by financially near impossible. According to the National Center for Education Statistics from 2001 to 2011, undergraduate tuition and room and board rose over 40% at public universities. Private universities have had a 60% price increase, which is triple the rate that incomes in the same period have risen. These private schools on average are costing $42,000 a year, while public universities are taking relatively higher price hikes at $21,000 a year for in-state students. Several analyses have estimated that by the year 2020, a four-year education could cost upwards of $155,000 to $240,000. To make matters worse, financial aid and scholarships can't keep up with the price of higher education tuition, meaning that we will not be able to hold down the cost of future tuition raises. In an article from Time magazine, the argument is made that college tuition should be regulated to protect prospective students from high inflation. 70% of financial aid for a college education is found in loans. There has been a 5.15 annual increase in college tuition over recent years, regardless of the declining state of the U.S. housing market and the Dow, meaning that more loans need to be taken out in order to get a degree. In 2011, nearly $1 trillion of student loan debt were accumulated, and over two-thirds of undergraduates are in debt. Educational loan debt exceeds credit card debt in America, and unfortunately for the students who have received the loans, lenders have changed the rules of the game so that defaulting on loan debt, like you would with credit debt, is not an option. In the documentary College Conspiracy, it is discussed that the same poor lending practices exhibited by mortgage companies are being used by educational loan lenders like Sallie Mae. Should a lender be aware of one's credit, high school grades, degree choice, and job outlooks before lending money to a teenager entering the college world? Although in theory that sounds like a great way to weed out abusers of the system, the article Stop the Tuition Madness shares a story of a man who graduated college and took out some loans to pay for his tuition, room, and board. After graduation, he became an aerospace engineer, yet was still unable to afford the amount his lender had decided he needed to pay back per month. After contacting the lender and asking to come up with a new payment plan, the lender denied him and the man had to default on his loans. He had only borrowed $38,000, but after late fees and penalties, he owed his lender more than $100,000 and lost his job due to poor credit. This example shows that even those who go to school, take out a little in loans, and get jobs in well-paying fields still struggle to pay back their loans, where credit check and job outlook research wouldn't have been effective in determining his ability to repay the loans. So what can colleges and we as consumers do in order to be financially responsible while looking for colleges and waiting for lenders like Sallie Mae to reform? In the article, Stop the Tuition Madness, the author gives some interesting takes on how colleges could make changes to their structure in order to save money, which would in turn help prospective students require less loans to pay for school. Some colleges have found that lowering the amount of staff hired and having them work more hours works well. Needless to say, this could potentially impede classroom lectures, office hours, and research. Stop the Tuition Madness suggests that when shopping for a college, students and parents shop around with tuition and room and board in mind. Online calculators like the one on finaid.org can help the student find a better ballpark range on tuition and room and board expenses, which would aid students in coming to a more precise conclusion on how much money to take out without having a lot left over. Secondly, students have been accepted to multiple schools can stir up the competition by telling the other universities about other financial aid offers. Sometimes schools will try to match financial aid offers from other schools in order to get someone in the door. Other options for lowering the cost of higher education includes looking into becoming an international student, taking high school dual credit, and taking community college classes to cover your first 2 years. Although you might be able to get very little in scholarships for international tuition, international colleges tend to have much lower tuition and you can gain diversity, which future employers or graduate schools will see as a plus. Community college can help you save money on your prerequisites and housing and food costs if you have the option to live at home. Taking advanced placement classes in high school will save you money and help you graduate college earlier, depending on how many eligible classes you are able to take. The cost of higher education is on the rise and will continue to increase in the future. Although there are many steps that can be taken and financial planning that can be done by students to alleviate these economic burdens, it is unclear if these methods will be useful in the long run. College tuition, housing, books, and other higher education costs can only be fully remedied by college and government intervention, as well as a reform in the ways that college loans are treated by lenders. The information in this segment was collected from the article Stop the Tuition Madness, Why College Should Be Regulated, and the College Loan Scandal, the documentary College Conspiracy, and the website collegeboard.org.
It could happen to anyone. Your next-door neighbor, your favorite actor, even senators. Divorce can affect anyone no matter what walk of life they come from. We hear about divorce all the time, whether it's the claim that divorce rates are at an all-time high, about 50%, or if someone you know is getting divorced or thinking about getting divorced. So what's it all about? The 3 most common reasons for divorce in America are
Lack of communication or communication breakdown.
Infidelity.
Financial issues. Communication is the key to any healthy relationship, or so the old adage goes. And of course, you can't have a healthy relationship without talking to your partner, which is why a breakdown in communication is one of the top reasons for divorce.
The reason infidelity is one of the main reasons for divorce is rather self-explanatory. The feeling of betrayal from your spouse and the breakdown of trust can lead to divorce.
Financial issues, being a main cause of divorce, is a bit trickier to explain.
It's probably due in part because of our social attitudes as Americans, the feeling that we need big houses or new cars, and also in part because of the need for financial stability, having money to put back for retirement or not having to live paycheck to paycheck.
Of course, all marriages are different, just as all people are different, and some couples may stick with their marriages even if they have all these issues, and some marriages end for trivial reasons. It seems that any time people talk about the frequency of divorce, they claim the divorce rate is almost 50% and that it has never been higher. The truth is that the divorce rate for first marriages is between 45 and 50%. So in that respect, most people are correct, but the divorce rate for second marriage is over 60%, and the rate for third marriages is over 70%, according to divorcestatistics.org. If your marriage didn't work the first time, your next one is a lot less likely to work out. The idea that divorce rates are at an all-time high and continuing to trend upwards doesn't hold up when you look into it. In fact, divorce rates have fallen between the years 2004 to 2009. And while they have been trending upwards since then, they haven't reached the rates they were at before the housing market collapse and our most recent recession. The highest divorce rates to date occurred during the late 80s and early 90s. This leads to an important question. Why are the divorce rates lower now than they were then? The truth of the matter is that there is no definitive answer to that question.
One possible reason is that therapy has become more normal and socially acceptable to participate in. Whether it's individual therapy or couples therapy, therapy helps create more balanced and healthy individuals, which could lead to better relationships.
Another possible reason is that people are more willing to work on their marriages. Although a survey found on divorce.usu.edu of divorced Utah residents showed that 74% of men and 65% of women wish that their spouses would have worked harder to save their marriage, while only 31% of men and 13% of women wish that they would have worked harder to save their marriages. So that reason doesn't seem likely.
Yet another reason the divorce rates have dropped may be due to economic reasons. The American economy is not what it was in the 80s and 90s. At that time, jobs were easier to find and investments were both safer and more profitable. Marriage tends to come with joint purchases like houses, cars, appliances, etc. Things that neither person can claim as fully theirs. If you want a divorce, this probably means you need a divorce attorney in order to divvy up what each person gets, or maybe you don't want the hassle so that you just give up your right to most of the stuff. Either way, this means you need to have money, so divorce becomes less of an option when the economy is bad, at least for most people.
Odds are, if you are married or someday want to get married, you don't plan on getting divorced or want to get divorced, which means it's important to know what factors may put you at a higher risk for divorce. Getting married at a young age is one risk factor for getting divorced. In fact, people that wait to get married in their mid-20s are significantly less likely to get divorced than those that get married sooner. This is interconnected with other risk factors for divorce, such as having a lower income, premarital pregnancy, and having less education. Another risk factor for divorce is having parents that got divorced, which doubles your risk of getting divorced. Oddly enough, living together before getting married is also a risk factor for divorce, but only if you have lived together with more than one partner. Couples that have lived together with only one partner aren't at any higher risk for divorce. The final risk factor for divorce that I'll discuss is insecurity. Being insecure about yourself leads towards having trust issues with other people in your life, which includes your spouse. Insecurity can lead to constantly needing to know where your spouse is and what they are doing, accusing them of cheating, trying to control them, and checking their phones or emails without permission, all of which are harmful to the marriage. America does have one of the highest divorce rates for any country, but that may not be a bad thing. Part of our divorce rate is our belief system. Most Americans believe that divorce can be and is a morally acceptable decision, which isn't the case in some other countries. Part of it is our ideals of equality and freedom. If your spouse becomes a completely different person from whom you married, if one or both spouses no longer love each other, if you are in an abusive relationship, or if you got married because you felt you had to, you may feel trapped in a marriage. Our society believes that you shouldn't have to feel trapped in a marriage, and you should have the right to get divorced regardless of the morality of your decision. Part of the divorce rate is our economy. We live in a society where both men and women can work, a society where anyone can be completely independent, and a society that has one of the best economies in the entire world, which makes divorce a more viable option because you can support yourself. At the end of the day, we do have people that get divorced for trivial reasons, and we have people that get divorced for completely legitimate reasons. But as Americans, we believe every individual has the right to choose whether or not you stay married.
The tributes of this district will reign as noble warriors through our honor to their families and prayer to their people. We are all of us united, both victors and vanquished, in serving a common purpose, the power and glory of the capital. Pan Am today, Pan Am tomorrow, Pan Am forever. Recognize it? I would hope so. It comes from one of the most popular book and film series in the U.S. right now, The Hunger Games. This portion of the victor's speech is delivered by the main character, Katniss, after she survives a terrible game, where the last woman or man standing lives. How exciting. Doesn't that sound familiar as well?
Maybe it reminds you of life in general. It does me. Courtney, yes. The immortal struggle to survive in a never-ending, turbulent, and cold world. But if the premise of the book hits closer to home than we ever realize, does that mean that more than just the basic could apply to us?
For example, who are the victors and the vanquished in reality? And the capital? What could we define as our own, very own replica of Pan Am? Tonight we take you into the storyline of your new favorite novel and film all the way to your very own front door.
Well, we could definitely call America the victor, am I right? As one of the most successful countries in the world, we have provided for our people since our conception. We have always stood as the home of the free and the brave. Sure, we have a few wrinkles, but doesn't everyone?
We sure do, Cameron, we sure do. But hey, at least hunger isn't one of them. No siree, Americans work hard to maintain higher incomes for their citizens than most countries, bringing in enough dough in 2012 to spend about $2,678 on food inside of the home and $3,921 outside of it. Well, how about that, huh? We definitely are at the top.
Yeah, you can't beat those numbers. We have definitely earned the right to spend inordinate amounts of money on our food. I guess that's what Pepto-Bismol is for. Oh, you know what that reminds me of? You know, that scene in the movie where Peter can't eat anymore and he is handed that.
Oh yes, the drink that makes you hungry again. Now, how useful would that be to us, huh? I wish we had something strong like that sometimes, especially on Thanksgiving. I never get to try anything.
I suppose that explains why 98% of the world's undernourished living in developed countries. They just can't get the American spirit going. And just take a look around the entire world. Nearly half of the world's population lives on less than $2.50 per day. But you sure won't find those folks in America. We breed the best, and only the best.
And the 1/4 of humans who live without electricity? Oh no, not here. In fact, Americans are well off enough to spend $2,605 on every entertainment imaginable, including movies, music, and television. I guess other countries are far too busy maintaining their fields to afford themselves some free time.
Maybe if they had our work ethic, Courtney, they wouldn't have to spend so much time on it.
Oh, how true. How very true. It might be easier for them if they dressed a little more nicely or combed their hair once in a while, too. Image is everything, you know. Eyes bright, chins up, smiles on.
Oh, don't I know it. What do you think got me this job? And Americans certainly have come out on top with their appearance. They had better. After spending an average of $1,736 on clothing and services per person in 2012. Just like Effie's hair, we all are on trend and on point. Based on National Geographic photos, there are plenty of people hardly motivated to even find a potato sack to wear, let alone trendy clothing.
Well, that certainly does show our commitment to success. Perhaps other countries are just far too uneducated to understand these types of things. After all, an enormous 20% of students in developing countries never even complete primary school. Their parents obviously never instilled them in determination and perseverance, two core values that Americans learn from birth. And without education, they simply do not know their own fault. How tragic.
It is a miracle these types of issues haven't touched our beautiful country in any significant way. It must be the wonderful people who live here, huh?
Yes, certainly right. After all, we are not the type of people to let 18,000 children under the age of 5 in our own country die from preventable diseases, starvation, or a lack of clean drinking water every day. We have plenty of resources to protect the generations to come. Our government, social services, is a beacon of hope for the lost and heartless countries.
So true. We value our youth, knowing that it is in them that our country will someday rest. How could others be so careless with their own?
I just don't know, Cameron. I just don't know. Let us take a moment of silence for the children lost by the callous, unfeeling countries around the world who allow a child to die every 10 seconds from a hunger-related disease.
How touching. Thank goodness we can count ourselves as part of the 12% of the world's population who uses 85% of the Earth's water resources. We use our talents to achieve plenty for all our citizens. And not one of those individuals in that 12% is located in a developing country. I see a clear trend going on.
When there are so many methods to attempt to fix these problems, there's just no excuse. For example, we have budgeted $6.3 trillion for government expenditures in 2014, with $1.3 trillion alone going towards healthcare. If only these people would open their eyes to the possibilities. It is as simple as giving the government the funds to change their situation. After all, the government would never use their funds in a malevolent way.
How right you are, Courtney. But it seems our time is up. Remember, we are all of us united in serving a common purpose. The power and the glory of America. Any last words for the viewers at home?
May the odds be ever in your favor.
One of the largest aspects of American life comes from its obsession and fascination with advertising.
The American media places a huge emphasis on using advertisements to fuel consumerism by persuading consumers to buy a certain product. While advertising has always been a staple of American life, it has received greater attention with the hit television series Mad Men on AMC. The show follows Don Draper, a New York City ad man who comes up with new and exciting ads for various companies and corporations in the 1960s. James Poniewazek of Time magazine said it best when describing the hit show in regards to advertising in his article Rebirth of a Salesman. It's the American promise in consumable form, not just abundance, but individuality, self-determination, liberation. Yet the side effect of limitless choice is paralysis. In the efforts of advertisements to persuade us to purchase or use a certain product, we suddenly lose sight of who we actually are as a person. Poniewazek goes on to describe how Draper can remake himself however he likes. But in the season 4 premiere, we see Draper, according to Poniewazek, struggle to answer a simple question from an advertising aid reporter. Who is Don Draper? He stares across the lunch table, blank, like a shopper boggling at 93 varieties of potato chip. It seems that this whole scenario of Draper being interviewed by a reporter asking him who he is extremely similar to advertising as a whole. We're oftentimes at odds with ourselves when we see an advertisement of someone who we think may appear more successful than ourselves. Advertising is a wolf in sheep's clothing. What is often depicted in ads does not accurately represent how the product or service is used in real life. Don Draper represents this in this scene from the season 4 premiere of Mad Men. Advertisements often take us away from who we believe we are. In America, this concept of how advertising changes people is evident in several American shows and movies. One classic example of this concept is clearly evident in the comedy Wayne's World. At one point in the film, television station executive Benjamin Cain tells Wayne that he can no longer do what he wants because he and the show are now under a contract and is forced to follow Benjamin's wishes. As Wayne and his friend Garth say they will not bow to any sponsor, they are seen endorsing companies such as Pizza Hut and Reebok. This whole scene is incredibly satirical, and that's why it has such a huge impact. At one point in the scene, Garth even says, "It's like people only do things because they get paid, and that's just really sad." Advertisements do just that. There has been extensive work to change the way advertising is displayed and depicted in America for many years now. Jean Kilbourne discusses her feelings on advertising in her film documentary, Killing Us Softly, Advertising's Image of Women. Kilbourne states advertising is the foundation of mass media. The primary purpose of the mass media is to sell products, but it also sells a great deal more than products. It sells values, it sells images, it sells concepts of love, sexuality, and perhaps most important, normalcy. But of course, what may be normal for one person may not necessarily be normal for another. Kilbourne goes on to say, advertising is one powerful force that keeps us trapped in very rigid roles and in very crippling definitions of femininity and masculinity. Advertising is an incredibly profitable concept in the United States and fuels people's feelings on what it means to be American. Advertisements show us what they think it means to be American, but it's important to make our own decisions and form our own values and morals about what it means to be truly American.
Kristen is 31 years old and is considering undergoing breast augmentation. From a young age, she has felt self-conscious about having small breasts, and after having children, she is bothered that they will become even smaller. She feels like she is being judged by others and feels inadequate as a woman. I want to discuss what cosmetic enhancement, such as cosmetic surgery, has to do with being American. The obsession doesn't stop at surgical procedures, but carries over into makeup, hair dye, hair extensions, and tanning. Why is America so obsessed with physical perfection? How do we measure up to other countries when cosmetic enhancement is concerned? So according to the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery, there were over 11 million surgical and non-surgical cosmetic procedures performed in the United States in 2013. The most popular surgical procedure in 2013 was liposuction. Americans spent more than $12 billion on cosmetic procedures in 2013. How do our statistics compare to those of other countries? Well, according to the International Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery, the United States tops the charts in regards to number of plastic surgeons and total number of procedures, coming in first place for both, followed by Brazil and China. I have Kristen and Cindy here with me. Kristen plans on undergoing breast augmentation, and Cindy has done so already. Hello, ladies. Thank you for speaking with me today. So, Kristen, let's talk a bit more about your reasoning for considering breast augmentation. When did the size of your breast start bothering you?
Well, I've been self-conscious of it from a young age. I really started to notice how small my breasts were my freshman year.
How old were you when you decided to look into breast augmentation?
I thought about it a few years ago, but I knew I couldn't afford it. Now that I've been promoted, I am able to afford it, and I'm honestly considering booking an appointment while I'm on vacation.
How much does it cost?
Around $5,000.
Wow. Are your friends and family supportive of this decision?
Well, my husband supports it 100%, but my parents are nervous about it. All of my friends are supportive.
Well, this is Cindy, and she underwent breast augmentation about 11 years ago. Cindy, do you regret your decision?
Absolutely not. It was a lot of money, there's no denying that. But it has done so much for my confidence, I would do it again, actually. I am interested in getting them larger.
How do you think you would feel about your breasts today if you hadn't undergone breast augmentation?
Well, before my surgery, I was very self-conscious of my body. I felt like a boy. I have a very outgoing personality, and I felt like my body did not reflect that.
And how did your friends and family feel about this?
The only person I told prior to the procedure was my husband, and he was really supportive. After the procedure, when people found out, they were primarily supportive and didn't see it as a big deal, but I did feel judgment from a few people.
How do you two feel cosmetic surgery such as breast augmentation fit into the American lifestyle?
Well, I know a lot of women who have had breast augmentation. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal, which is odd because it's expensive and it's an invasive procedure.
Yeah, I think that this day and age in America, if there is something you don't like about yourself, you are encouraged to fix it, even if it requires an extreme such as cosmetic surgery.
Do you feel that the need to change things we don't like about ourselves stems from an American desire for physical perfection?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think I would have felt so bad about myself if I hadn't noticed men oogling women with large breasts on a daily basis. I also tan on a regular basis and exercise 2 hours a day because I'm very self-conscious of how I look. I want others to look at me and think, she looks good.
I agree. All of my friends have larger breasts, and it's always gotten to me. I think we live in a society where everyone is worried about how they appear to others. We're raised on television, magazines, and advertisements filled with thin women with a perfect body, face, and hair. After a while, we start to question the way we look, and there are plenty of people out there supporting the idea of changing physical self.
All right, well, thank you for your time, ladies.
We live in a world where technology surrounds us everywhere. You pass by people talking on their phones, watching their favorite TV shows on their tablets, and listening to music on their iPods. It has become part of our everyday lives, and people are progressively being introduced at a younger age. I think the first question that comes to a lot of people's minds is how young is too young? An article written on Yahoo News stated that Sprint has created a device that can be used for 5 to 12-year-olds that works similar to a cell phone called WeGo. We had to ask some parents on what they thought of this new invention. Sue is a parent of a 5 and a 3-year-old who is bringing up her kids in a tech-savvy world. Does her 5-year-old need a cell phone?
I'm not too sure about this idea, and do not see why my kid would need to carry around a phone. They would probably lose it.
Sprint says that it only comes with 3 features: a button to call, a listing stating who all the contacts are, and a pull string that sounds an alarm if your child is in danger.
I like the idea of the basic features. It provides what is basically needed for someone that young.
Parents will also be able to use the web to track the location, and it will even send text messages saying when their child arrived at home or in school.
Those are some great features, but I still worry about my child losing it. They lose stuff easily.
Would this be an item that you believe your children will need?
It's not something I would buy for my kids, but I can see why some parents would. With busy lives, you want to keep track of your child as much as you can and stay in contact no matter what.
Carol is busy raising 7-year-old twins and thought that the WeGo phone would be perfect for her children.
My munchkins are getting to sports, so I'm busy running them around to basketball and soccer practices. It would become a handful sometimes, but it's hard to always keep up with it all. I think it would probably put my mind more at ease if I had a way to keep an eye on them more.
Hearing of a 5-year-old having a cell phone may seem shocking to some people, but according to the article, when should you buy your child a smartphone? Parents are giving cell phones to their young children. A survey done by AT&T stated that the average child receives his or her first cell phone around their 12th birthday. Readers participated in a poll that showed that they believe ages 13 to 17 is when children should receive their first cell phones, followed closely by 8 to 12-year-olds. Scott, a father of two teenage boys, feels that the poll agrees with how most parents feel when giving their children their first cell phone.
I think the older the better, because they are more responsible and can understand the consequences if they break or lose it. A parent's worst fear is having to buy a new phone after a short while, because they are not cheap.
Cell phones being offered for kids, such as WeGo, offer very few features. However, there are apps in the App Store that you may want to download to your smartphone to have your kids play with. Selby Learning Center recently released a few gaming apps to help kids from grades 1 to 4. These are no ordinary games, as they help kids with basic history, language, and core curriculum. It also allows parents to keep track of their kids' progress in the games, also allowing the kids to connect with other players worldwide. Sue believes these apps would fit her kids perfectly.
I think that it's a wonderful idea that they are creating apps solely for kids. It's a way to keep them learning after school and in the summertime. I would let my kids play for an hour a day. Their education is top priority.
When we think of cell phones, we focus more on the pricing and who our children are texting. We forget that phones, especially smartphones, offer so many features that can help benefit your child. But giving up your smartphone is not an easy thing to do, as the fear of your phone breaking or having something spilled on it will make you pull out your wallet again. However, companies such as Fisher-Price decided to help parents out in this situation. You can buy cases for your phone or tablet guaranteed to protect from any damage. Some even come shaped as animals and look kid-friendly.
Knowing that my phone will be protected if my kids play with it is very helpful. They always want to play around with the games on it or watch something. The number one fear I have is them dropping it and cracking the screen. I feel that I have to constantly watch them if I hand over my phone, but the damage-proof case, I wouldn't feel a need to.
New technology for children is coming out at a rapid pace, preparing for the upcoming generation to be attached to their devices 24/7. And while thinking that a 5-year-old having a cell phone seems a bit too young, it will soon be as common as adults carrying a phone on them at all times.
The American lifestyle is the way people live in the United States. In the 1999 annual report for the National Archives and Records Administration, National Archivist John C. Carlin wrote, "We are different because our government and our way of life are not based on the divine right of kings, the hereditary privileges of elites, or the enforcement of deference to dictators. They are based on pieces of paper, the charters of freedom, the Declaration that asserted our independence, the Constitution that created our government, and the Bill of Rights that established our liberties. These things afford each individual the opportunity to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That being said, the American lifestyle will differ for each person pursuing it. One thing that will be the same for each individual pursuing the American lifestyle is the fact that, in order to have this lifestyle, one must work. According to an article, Americans Work More Than Anyone, in the industrialized world, Americans work longer days and take less time off than anyone else in the world. The average American works anywhere from 49 to 59 hours per week. In order to try to understand why Americans work such long hours, we spoke with 3 people, each with different backgrounds and different lifestyles. First up is Mike. He is married and has 2 children. He's a diesel mechanic and has been for about the past 28 years. Here is his story.
My name is Mike. I'm a heavy-duty mechanic. I've been doing this occupation for close to 28 years, I'd say. And I've put in many long hours at my job for my family. When I was younger and single, a 40-hour paycheck was more than enough. I was able to save my money and live the way I wanted to do and do things I wanted to do, which as life goes on, I have a family now and I work for my family. That's the honest truth. My family means everything to me. I used to put in 60 hours plus a week at work to help my family meet our bills and for to help my children get what they needed to succeed in life.
And what effect does all these hours have on your family?
Well, on my family, I hardly see them because basically I work and sleep. And usually on the weekends I am in a recovery mode. And I basically sleep my weekends away just to recuperate enough to make it through another week of work.
So all these hours have an effect on your health?
Yes, like I said, I used to put in 60 hours plus a week. It's a very demanding and stressful job I have. And almost probably a year ago, it all caught up with me. And it just tore me up physically, and I got ill. I could not get over it, and I had to cut back. And now I'm only working about 12 hours overtime a week, which is 52 hours a week instead of 60, because I am physically not able to keep doing the 60 hours a week. And it's making things a little bit tough at home because the overtime is very important for us to make our obligations and stuff. The overtime does not really give me anything extra in life. It just helps me to meet my obligations. I do not live a super lifestyle or anything. I live I consider a very modest lifestyle. I don't have anything really extravagant to talk about. Basically, I live in a very nice house, and my hobbies I'm not able to do due to the finances of my hobbies. I just can't make the money to do my hobby, so they have been put on the afterburner because my family's more important, and we try our best to do what we can do for everyone. That's how life is.
Next, we will hear from Holly, a 35-year-old single mother. Holly works full-time as a domestic account executive and logistics specialist for a manufacturing company. Outside of this, she also maintains a part-time job.
Hi, my name is Holly Cook. I am 35 years old, and I'm a single mother, and I am a domestic account exec and logistics specialist for a manufacturing company in St. John. It is an excellent career. However, the fact that I am a single mother, I do have a second job, and so between my main job and my second part-time job, I work 45 to 50 hours a week. Working all those hours affects the time I can and can't spend with my son. I tend to have to depend on other people, rely on other people to pick him up from school and get him to practices, or pick him up from tutoring, to get him to and from school, to and from games, and such things like that. A lot of times I am late for those things, if I can even make them at all. As a matter of fact, Luke has adopted one small, and I have to rely on someone else to take him because I'm not able to get off work.
Okay, so how do you think that the long hours affect you personally?
Well, I feel like I'm missing out as a mother. I feel guilty for having to rely on others to do what I feel like I should be doing. It breaks my heart when it disappoints Luke when I'm not able to make something, or I'm late for something, or I can't participate with things that he wants me to, so it hurts as a mom to let him down like that.
the long hours you put in affects your job performance?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because sometimes I'm tired and I'm not on top of my game the way I need to be, such things like that. Sometimes I make dumb mistakes because I'm tired, or I'm irritable, or sometimes I resent the fact that I have to do all those things, and, it affects you.
What about your health? Do you think those hours affect that?
Absolutely. I have to take medicine for my anxiety at times, and, stress hurts your body, I tell you.
Okay. All right.
When my stress level goes up, I can tell because my stomach starts hurting because of my ulcer. I have an ulcer, and I can feel my anxiety and my stress go up because I can feel that in my stomach.
And relationships other than your son, extended family, more personal relationships, does it have an effect on those?
Absolutely. I don't have the time to spend with the people that I want to, like my friends and family, and sometimes my stress and my irritability, I take it out on my boyfriend, and plus I put a lot of stress on him, and I rely on him quite a bit to do the things that I can't because of my work.
Okay. Do you see anywhere in the near future that you can stop working the part-time job and just rely on your full-time job? Is that a possibility?
Not an option. Because we don't have a great house, but it's our home, and it costs more than what I'm able to make. It costs more than what I make at one job. Therefore, I have to work that part-time job to make ends meet.
Right. Okay.
To give myself and my son a standard of living. It's not an opulent lifestyle, but it's just a regular, normal standard life that I have to maintain by working my own job.
Right.
Our final interview was with Ryan. He is 30 years old, single, and has no children. He works in banking.
Okay, so in New York City, I worked for HSBC, and I worked on the regulatory reporting side, where we did all the external reporting to the Federal Reserve, the FDIC. So it's a very important, critical role that the bank has to have. Unfortunately, within those types of roles, it's not a revenue-producing group for the banks. We're not making the bank money. We're costing the bank money. Definitely a group that the bank has to have, but again, we're not making the bank money. So it's not just for us to get enough staff members who want to work in our group. It's a very detail-oriented, high stress because we have tight deadlines to work or to meet, and it's a lot of accounting, different types of finance, lots of new rules, regulations with the government coming out and putting on us. There's a really high turnover rate because since we don't make the bank money, our group we don't get enough allowance, compensation, within the budget to hire more staff members. So we're having to work really long hours for a very specialized group in the bank that not a lot of people know how to do. So turnover rate is high in this group, and unfortunately, when we do lose somebody, it's a big impact because it takes quite some time to train somebody and get them up to speed in this type of group. But again, compensation, it does pay more, which is nice. But the little bit more you make in this group is it worth working a normal 40-hour week versus I was working 70, 75 hours a week. And weekends were quite mandatory on quarter ends. Our quarter ends would last 2 months each quarter, so 8 months out of the year we're working nonstop weekends. It was difficult on my team because a lot of my team had families, wives, husbands, kids, where they're in the office from 8 in the morning until 9, 10 o'clock at night. Everything was covered. Our meals, our transportation to work every day was covered, paid for. health issues because they're working so much, and the food we get at work for dinner and lunch, things like that, it wasn't the healthiest. But, great experience. A lot of people got, would stay in for a couple of years and then go somewhere else and find a role like what I just did myself. I moved from New York State to Charlotte, North Carolina, where now I'm working in an area similar to what I did in New York, but it's not where we have deadlines that we have to meet on a regular basis, where we're facing off with the Federal Reserve and the FDIC. So my hours now are 40 to 45 hours a week. I'm able to use the experience I gained the last couple of years in New York City, while down in Charlotte, and, I still make a good amount of money. Not New York City salary, but still good money. And but my work-life balance has improved drastically. I have a life again. I get to play golf, go to the gym, eat good meals, and have friends. So for me, that was worth it. That's worth more than making just a higher salary but having no life outside of the office.
Each of the 3 people we spoke with work long hours. They all described their lifestyle as just ordinary, nothing extravagant. Each also described the effects that working long hours has on their lifestyles. Long hours affect their health, their relationships, and their desired lifestyle in negative ways, as the working hours leave little time for family, exercise, and hobbies. Each of the 3 also described that long hours they work as a necessity, whether that necessity is to support a family or because the job demands it. Interestingly, none of our participants reported that they put in the long hours so that they could live a more extravagant lifestyle. One participant was able to make a change, with lower salary but a far more relaxed way of life. The others do not feel that a change is possible at this time. It would seem, then, that Americans are pressured to work long hours just to get by, and while each person has the opportunity to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, in order to be happy, one must try to balance long work hours with life.
Most of the world knows America to be an obese country, but do they know why? Do other countries have the same problems and abilities to create a society where fast food is such a big part of their lifestyle? Too much fast food is a problem. Our country makes fast food almost too convenient. You see more and more franchises that are open until 1 a.m., 3 a.m., or even open 24 hours. Whatever time of the day it is, fast food is always there to fill your satisfactions. There are many reasons why people eat so much fast food. It can be when you're on your way to work and you pick up something, or you see a commercial when you're drinking your coffee in the morning about a deal that McDonald's is having, and you end up getting the deal for lunch. It also could be that you have something going on that day and you don't get home until late, so you pick up something for the family. I recently interviewed a very independent woman named Jennifer Copperton, who has a problem with fast food. Jennifer Copperton is an average full-time student with two part-time jobs, who is just trying to make it through until graduation.
It's hard to make time to cook for myself. I'm always on the go with 2 part-time jobs, one being retail and the other working at a daycare, and going to school every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I usually just pick up something on the way home from the library, after school on the way home to one of my jobs, or even in the morning before school starts, because I was just up late last night finishing homework.
According to StatisticBrain.com, 44% of Americans eat fast food once per week. 20% eat fast food twice per week. 3 or more times a week is 14%. 6% of people eat fast food every day, and 28% of Americans never eat fast food. What category would you consider yourself as?
I probably eat fast food 3, maybe 4 times a week.
According to Huffington Post, 57% of male and females between the ages of 18 to 29 years old eat fast food weekly. What do you think influences you to get fast food, Jennifer?
Well, the fact that there are McDonald's, Dairy Queen, and Subway on the way to school makes the drive-thru very convenient. A lot of the advertisements, like the billboards, before the fast food venues are appealing, and then when I have time to hang out with my friends at lunch, we tend to go out a lot, so that doesn't help either.
According to PreventionInstitute.org, fast food franchises spend more than $5 million every day toward marketing unhealthy food to children. Then FastFoodMarket.org says that fast food franchises spend about $4.2 billion on average toward advertising to encourage frequent visits by young people to eat fast food restaurants. With this being said, how do you feel about the amount you spend on your fast food versus how much you would spend if you bought food at the grocery store?
Well, I wish fast food wasn't so expensive, but at the same time, I obviously don't mind it because I still buy fast food.
Now, earlier we were off the air. Jennifer and I were talking about the prices of fast food. If you buy a Big Mac meal at McDonald's, you can buy a frozen casserole for the same price. However, you will have a serving size of 4 instead of 1. This not only cuts down on the amount of fast food you eat, but it also cuts down on the price of how much money you spend on food every week or 2 weeks. The number of fast food franchise is McDonald's. The McDonald's spent around $963 million in advertisements last year. Wendy's spent a little over $400 million in advertisements, and Taco Bell spent $280 million last year in advertisements. In the end, it pays off because at the end of the day, 50 million Americans are served fast food daily. Ashley Williams is an American 20 years old and is a single mom whose days consist of entertaining her children. She has plenty of time to cook, but feels time with her children is more valuable. What is a typical day for you?
A typical day? Well, I wake up with my 2-month-old and feed him. Then, about an hour later, my 3-year-old daughter wakes up. We have breakfast, usually cereal, and then we watch television if nothing is going on that day. We all get ready for the day, and then if we don't go out to eat to McDonald's, I will make lunch.
So you usually go out to eat?
Yes, we usually go to some sort of fast food place at least 3 times a week.
How much do you usually spend when you go?
I spend around $10 or less every time we go. That is if we go to McDonald's, which we go there a lot.
Do you feel like you have the time to cook at home?
Yes, I know I have the time to cook. I just don't really know how to cook anything besides spaghetti, hamburger helper, and tacos. I just get fast food because it's easier. Now that I'm trying to lose weight, I have been making a lot of salads, and I definitely buy more fruit.
What choices do you give your 3-year-old daughter when you go out to eat?
I usually ask her if she wants a cheeseburger or chicken nuggets. I give her an option between Sprite, lemonade, or water.
Opposed to Ashley's situation, Jake Hillsley is only 13 years old and really likes to go to McDonald's. Do you eat fatty foods?
Not a lot, maybe once a week.
Why do you like fast food?
I like fast food because it tastes good. The burgers that McDonald's makes and the burgers that my dad makes don't taste the same. I definitely like the McDonald's burgers better.
How often do you eat at home?
Oh, we eat at home all the time. The only time we go out to eat is after church on Sunday. Oh, and we go after a game if me, my sister, and brother have one that day. And if it's someone's birthday in the family.
What do you get when you go to a fast food restaurant, and why?
I usually get a cheeseburger with ketchup, mustard, pickles, cheese, and tomatoes. I like the fries from McDonald's, and I get pop. I like it because it tastes better than what my parents make.
Fast food is commonly liked and accepted by Americans as a sustainable meal. Although many Americans feel they don't have the time to prepare a good meal, others, like Ashley, feel that it is common economic practice. Every age group of Americans have been targeted by fast food corporations, and therefore it has become a way of American life.
Have you ever not eaten?
Yes.
Why?
Stress makes me lose all of my appetite.
Thank you.
That was one example of someone who doesn't eat when they are stressed. The last example is from a student who goes to school full-time and works part-time.
Have you ever eaten when you're not hungry?
Yes, I feel that it helps me comfort some of the stress. I usually want chocolate or sugary food. I don't do it very often, though.
There's a chemical that's released called ghrelin that basically says, feed me, which can be released even if you're not hungry in the event that you're overstressed.
While we think stress doesn't have much of a threat on our lives, it can lead to habits that do, like smoking or taking uppers and downers.
Smoking is just as bad as any drug. You can become addicted to nicotine pretty easily. Smoking can cause various types of cancerous diseases. Smoking during a pregnancy can also cause harmful effects on the mother and the child.
Students and sometimes workers who stay up late to get work done or are severely stressed might take uppers. Now, uppers are drugs that will help them stay awake and alert. Common uppers, for example, are cocaine, methamphetamines, amphetamines, such as ADHD meds, antidepressant medication.
Commonly paired with uppers or downers. These will lower your high from the uppers, causing you to feel relaxed. Sometimes these are taken without uppers. Some examples of downers are opiates like heroin, sedative hypnotics, and alcohol. All of the aforementioned are dangerous and very bad for your health, so please do not use any of these to relieve your stress. There are more healthier forms of stress relief than doing drugs, smoking, or alcohol.
Ever wonder what's really in your food? And I'm not talking about the amount of calories or carbs that are in that candy bar you just grab about every day on your pitifully short lunch break. I'm talking about all the chemicals below the nutritional value chart. Well, let's go back to that theoretical candy bar, or literal, no judgment. Anyways, let's say you usually grab a Butterfinger. Butterfingers have the one hugely obvious ingredient of sugar. Sugar is just about the worst ingredient in almost everything we eat. As most of us know, sugar comes from sugar cane. That doesn't sound bad, right? Wrong. Sugar is, in short, the bleached, nutritionally deficient byproduct of cane processing, and it promotes diabetes, obesity, mood disorders, and natural deficiencies. If that doesn't sound bad enough, many products that are sugar-free use artificial sweeteners. Aspartame, being one of those artificial sweeteners, is a chemical sweetener that can cause neurological disorders, migraines, seizures, and many other problems. Those sweet, sugary snacks don't sound quite so good anymore, do they? You're most likely sitting there thinking, sure, that sounds bad, but we all know that candy isn't good for us anyways. Okay, so let's check out something that we are told we should have every day, dairy, or more specifically, milk. There's nothing like having a cold glass of milk with a classic PB&J, but you might think twice about choosing your typical cow's milk as a beverage. Studies done by Spanish and Moroccan researchers discovered a wide range of medications and hormones that were found in milk. The drugs and hormones found on the results were anti-inflammatories, antibiotics, natural hormones, sex hormones, steroid hormones, anti-malaria drugs, and antifungal drugs. Take note of all the hormones. Cow milk, goat milk, and human breast milk were all included in this study, but cow's milk had the highest level of all the chemical additives. If that doesn't have you convinced to switch to soy, almond, or rice milk yet, then how about we focus on all those hormones that are either given directly to the cow or added into the milk later on. When hormones are used, it induces an unnatural period of milk production. The milk produced from this stage of the milk production is considered low quality due to the high fat content and low protein levels. To make things worse, the hormone IGF-1 promotes cancer tumors. Dr. Epstein, Professor Emeritus of Environmental and Occupational Medicine at the University of Illinois School of Public Health and Chairman of the Cancer Prevention Coalition, stated that excess levels of IGF-1 have been incriminated as major causes of breast, colon, and prostate cancers. Another cause of hormone-treated milk is a higher somatic cell count, or STCs. What is that supposed to mean, I hear you ask? Higher STCs means that, brace yourself, the milk contains more pus. That's right, pus. Pus is what makes milk turn sour so quickly. Increased somatic cell counts can also affect the taste, smell, texture, and color of milk. I'll let that sink in, as I'm sure you're still trying to wrap your head around the fact that milk has pus in it. So in retrospect, maybe you'll think twice about the foods you eat. Just because sugar is bad doesn't mean we have to stop eating it altogether, maybe just not as much. And if you don't mind the pus, there is nothing wrong with continuing to drink milk. However, organic or, if possible, raw milk is a fantastic alternative, along with soy milk, rice milk, and almond milk. There is always a healthier alternative to what we eat and drink. We just have to make the effort to choose the smarter option. The best thing to do is to educate yourself on what is really in the food we eat, because the ingredients labels clearly aren't doing the job.
I want to hit on a sport that has taken many leaps and bounds forward in just a short 10 years. Let's open up just by saying its name. CrossFit.
You know, I've heard about this CrossFit stuff.
And that's what I'm talking about. Even if you don't do it, or don't follow it, anyone in America, even the most of the world, has some idea of its existence.
No, wait. Not everything I've heard is good stuff.
You have to admit that with any new thing in America, it's going to be scrutinized, especially by all its competitors. I've heard from other forums of physical training or trainers all sorts of negative comments. From it's a sport that only leads to injury, all the way to CrossFit is a cult. But if there is one thing CrossFit seems to do, stand up against these claims.
So I take it you're a CrossFitter?
Yes, I would have to say I'm a full-on hooked CrossFitter.
Okay, 1, what is a CrossFitter? And 2, where exactly did CrossFit come from?
Like any crazy new thing, it came from California. It started in 1971 by Greg Glassman, an Olympic gymnast. He simply wanted to create an exercise style that would better train him for a ring routine.
Okay, well that's where it started, but that was back in 1971. Now you said it's expanded in 10 years?
Now hold on. Let me get to that. Glassman came up with the first CrossFit workout, not CrossFit itself. The first workout was a combination of weighted front squat thrusters and pull-ups, all done in a downward pyramid style of 21 reps, 15 reps, and 9 reps. After the workout, he was lying on the floor fighting for air. He immediately brought a friend over, and they did it until they were vomiting on the floor.
Wow, okay. Yeah, vomiting sounds real popular, if of course we lived in ancient Greece. Now, vomiting doesn't exactly sound like something fun to do. How is this popular?
Well, most of the time, you wouldn't think so. But what other workout routine or sport can generally push you so hard you throw up? The funny thing is, vomiting has almost become like a badge of honor for CrossFitters, a sort of baptism into the sport. The knowledge you could push yourself that hard.
Well, your claim to not being a cult is kind of dwindling.
Hear me out, Mr. Buzz Killington. After Glassman and his friends were done with this workout, they jokingly named it Fran, as is now another staple of CrossFit, to name all of its toughest workouts after fallen heroes or women. Women, because in the words of Glassman, anything that can leave you that beaten and on the floor should be named after a woman.
Okay, well what happened to CrossFit after that? Why did it sit stale for 30 years and then become so popular in the last 10?
Well, for starters, the internet didn't exist, and modern-day CrossFit started as an internet blog of workout ideas. Glassman simply kept it to himself for 30 years, not really knowing what he had.
Well, what are some things that have helped make it popular today?
To be completely honest, not a lot of people can put a true finger on why CrossFit is really popular. But one of the believed reasons is that America puts a lot of its emphasis on its sports, being that it defines itself that way.
How exactly are we our sports?
Think about it. You can't walk into a crowd without seeing a few people sporting the team they love. People like to talk about the game the night prior. We use sports metaphors and analogies in almost everything we do. A politician was quoted saying that the crisis in the Middle East is a game changer. When an employee does a good job, his boss may tell him he hit a hole-in-one or a slam dunk. Words like being a team player, and more people in America partake in some form of sport than usually vote.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from. America likes sports.
I personally feel that sports are a form of honesty, and in the last 10 years, we have been starved for real honesty.
Now, how exactly are sports truthful? You know, you have athletes taking drugs and being more concerned with endorsements and affairs.
That's not exactly what I mean. Let me ask you this. How much can you bench?
I don't know, maybe 300? Why?
See, if I don't believe you, we can load up a bar and watch you do it. Ask any CrossFitter what his Fran time is. He'll say 2 minutes 30 seconds or somewhere around there. Well, we can load up a bar and try it out.
Okay, I see your point there, but what's boosted in it 10 years? I'm still waiting for that answer.
That's easy, actually. Terrorists.
Terrorists? How on earth could terrorism make CrossFit popular?
Easy. We, always as Americans, find our way to either approve, relate, or support our military. Well, one of the biggest things you can relate CrossFit to would be like intense military training. Remember, CrossFitters honor fallen heroes by naming their hardest workouts after them.
So you're saying that the war on terror bonded us as Americans, and CrossFit has helped to empathize our bond to that war?
Exactly. See, the beauty of CrossFit is that anyone who does it is almost like family to the other members of their box. They gain a sense of camaraderie through their hard work together.
Box?
Yeah, a box. That's what CrossFitters call their gyms. They have all their own language for things, as is true with most new things.
What really bonds these people to each other?
The pain.
What?
Yeah, the pain.
Cult. If that's the case, why don't people love the dentist?
Not to diss on a dentist, but no, that's a different type of pain. This is a pain that can only come from this kind of work. It's mental pain, from building mental toughness. It's true, hear me out. A Green Beret trying out CrossFit once said, CrossFit actually reveals the recipe for camaraderie, which is 1 part's agony with 1 part's laughter.
Suffer together?
Exactly. Suffer together and become stronger together.
So what exactly is CrossFit then?
Constantly varied, high-intensity, functional movement. A direct quote from the founder, Greg Glassman himself.
Come again?
I tell you what, let's roll a soundbite from Glassman and see if he can define it better.
In each case, what we have is constantly varied high-intensity functional movement. And in each instance, what you see is an interpretation of that. It's just that easy. And that's a big part of the Level 1 seminar. Have you been to the Level 1 cert? Yeah. I mean, that was, I think, covered in pretty good detail there. And we went from these 3 operational models in a kind of an oddity. That is this notion of balance in the 10 facets of physical adaptation to a exercise regimen, cardiorespiratory endurance, stamina, strength, flexibility, power, speed, coordination, accuracy, agility, and balance. Balance in breadth and depth of those adaptational facets. The second one was this notion of spinning a hopper and pulling out modal challenges from the skills and drills of training associated with any and all sports. So you'd line people up. He or she that did best on average in those would be fittest. And then there was this balance of the metabolic pathways, and then this kind of curiosity that we had observed that there was a well-ordered continuum from for just about anything that you could quantify sat well-ordered on a continuum from those that were pathological to those that were well or normal to values that you found in fit people. And that eventually gave way to this understanding that fitness was work capacity measured across broad time and modal domains. And that indeed is fitness and is CrossFit. So it's a quantifiable approach to a finally well-defined notion of what fitness is. That is what CrossFit is.
As you can see, CrossFit has completely redefined fitness. And as it has helped to define us as Americans as well, before the only real gym rats you would find are these massive dedicated guys at the weight rack. But the beauty is, anybody can do CrossFit.
Anybody can do CrossFit, huh? Well, what about me? I'm a little overweight. How could I pull this off?
Of course, you could most, if not all of the movements in CrossFit, follow the guidelines of functional movement, which means you may not start out pumping out the extreme weights, but you can do all of the workouts in the same way and still find intensity in all of them.
Okay, so I would have to find myself a CrossFit gym or a box rather than try this stuff out.
The only people who really don't like CrossFit are the people who don't do it.
As these stories show us, Americans, for the most part, don't live expensive lives. Everyone in America does not live in a big house, drive a new car, or have no worries. We can see through these tales that we all struggle to define what it means to be American. For some, it means fast food and consumerism. For others, addiction and exercise. We wonder about people who undergo cosmetic enhancements or work themselves into an early grave. Do we envy those that have the opportunity to buy that amazing purse we see in Cosmo, or are we happy to set out a responsible 10-year plan? Does the American dream include the big house, the fabulous spouse, the average 2.5 children, and the dog in the backyard? Some of us may believe this, but in the land of the free and the home of the brave, it is the opportunity to pursue happiness that matters the most.